What is up, my tribal people? Welcome back to another episode clip of Pree Da Podcast. And just a reminder that these are only short in clips, and if you want to listen to the full episode, make sure you click the first link in the description below. Alternatively, you can type in Pree Da Podcast on all your audio listening platforms. And if you want to keep up what goes on behind the scenes, make sure you follow all our socials at Pree Da Podcast. Without further ado, I'll catch you guys on the other side. Richie Sunak, right? He's just literally head in the sand. He's not even trying to entertain any conversation about increases in wage. It's ridiculous. And I respect all the people in the public sector who are taking this into their hands and be like, nah, we're not just sitting here and taking it.
You are now listening to Pree Da Podcast with your host, Mujaro.
People, welcome back to your favorite podcast on the internet, and you guys already know what I'm gonna say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to grow the community, and by sharing this with your friends and family, that goes a long way in helping us do that. Now let's get into it. And since we're focusing on health for the time being, have you seen the recent NHS nurses strike and then subsequently more public sector strike? It feels like everyone's on strike in the public sector. It started like back in October last year, but ever since the railway strikes, postman strikes, doctors, nurses, teachers, lorry drivers, everyone's striking, and for good reason, because we're living in in the cost of living crisis. You've all heard the stories. Everything's going up, rent's going up, taxes. I think taxes are staying the same, but energy prices are going up.
Taxes are beginning to rise. They've already said that. They're ready. They're gonna start bringing in tax rises. So that compounding that with everything that's going on now, people are going to be in a pinch, and rightfully so. I feel like people should strike, because at the end of the day, if their pay isn't going in line with inflation, because their jobs aren't like our kind of jobs where we work for companies for a certain degree, because they operate on more or less like pay bands kind of thing. So even if they were to leave their job and go to another job, unless they're moving up a pay band, it doesn't mean anything. So I can leave my job today and go to a different job and be like, get more money or less money or what have you.
Because there's competition as well.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're devalued in a job, you can easily look at the market and be like, oh, well, I've got a set of skills I feel like I could be useful for any company. I know down at, Deloitte Bank, they're offering, X amount of people, experience this type of wage. I'm just going to go there and, hopefully I get the job. But in the public sector, especially if you're in the care or emergency services, you can't really, take time off to even go on an interview. You can't really, take time off. Yeah, it's like you can't just go to another department or another place in the country. They're going to tell you basically the same thing. Like, oh, sorry, we can't match what you're asking for because this is what the government's imposed on us. And that's the thing. The government has been imposing public sector cuts for at least 2 decades now, in my opinion. Like, NHS, the lines are getting longer, the quality of service is getting worse. And I just feel sorry because these people just want to do their job. They just want to, offer the best healthcare they can, best service they can. But the way this government has been operating for years now is not conducive to having an efficient NHS system. Like, I've been in the hospital recently, for good reasons. And it just strikes me how, like, we worked in a company where the communication was just not there. Something that's basic that, I was just speaking to him a second ago. He should have passed on the information to you, or by email or by, sisters talking to each other. There's none of that. They literally have to start you from the process again. Every single, department you go to or unit you go to, they're asking for the same story. Oh, so why are you here? Oh, we need to check your vitals. If you need to go from one unit to another, you're doing that 2 times when you could just do that once at the start of the day or start of the whole cycle. And then they'll be speaking to each other, all the units will be speaking to each other and go in an efficient manner. But no, it's, we need to get this and we need to wait for this and we need to wait for that. And it's just a lot of wasted time. And I've been in a situation where that time has cost death. Like this wait, we're not, equipped to have the right amount of staff or the, right quality of staff. So we have to contact this unit and contact that unit. And in an emergency situation where, for say, an operation is needed, that delay could be the end of someone. And it's very unfortunate. We've all heard those types of stories. So yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like there's a lot of, with the NHS, there's a lot of issues that are compounding. So you need to factor in Brexit in there as well, because obviously we've broke apart of the EU, and now where we were part of a single market. So although there's job shortages right now, we could have had people to fill those, and those people could be working now and obviously help out with, especially in like A&E areas like that where there's the you're waiting for hours and hours and hours. So that's one factor in Brexit. The fact that cost of living, so you find a lot of people now are leaving the NHS, potentially going private or even going overseas now. So there's another labour shortage. And then the people that you currently have there are working way over capacity.
Yeah.
So they're working stressed. They may be liable to make mistakes, what have you, which is not, it's not really, the heinous isn't really on them because they're doing the best that they can given the current circumstances. So they've really been put in a bad situation, which they're trying to pick up the pieces for, and it almost seems as if the government are a little bit reluctant to help. And I feel like, from what you mentioned, because obviously there's a lot of government cuts, but in that same breath, I think the UK has given the second most to Ukraine to support them.
They've given 3.7 billion last time I checked. So we're able to fund other parts of, I don't know, whatever policies that, these people in power want to do in terms of, I don't know, military aid to other countries, border enforcement, all these other, things that they want to fund, but where are the people, especially after you went through the whole trouble of, clap for the NHS, come out at 6:30 and clap for the NHS. But when they're asking for 20%, they're asking for a 20% increase, which is reasonable given the, the shortages of everything we've talked about. Right? It's reasonable to ask for a 20% increase on the wages because of all the pressures that have come onto the NHS staff workers. But for them to, like Richie Sunak, right? He's just literally head in the sand. He's not even trying to entertain any conversation about increases in wage. It's ridiculous. And I respect all the people in the public sector who are taking this into their hands and be like, nah, we're not just sitting here and taking it. We're going to walk out. And, unfortunate for people who might have, important surgeries. I know someone, one of my friends, they had to cancel a surgery, an operation for her, because of strikes. They didn't say it was strikes though. They didn't say it was strikes, but you could, it's definitely strike because this thing was planned for like months. So yeah, it's not even funny anymore. It's just a slap in the face.
It's tough. And the people that receive the brunt of it are the people that need the care. So the people that are actually in hospital for medical treatment. They're the ones that ultimately get the brunt end of the stick because they're the ones who are getting lackluster care because of all the issues that are going on right now, which isn't really fair. At the end of the day, we all pay enough taxes, and really the government really just needs to step up and deliver on their end, really. And we're doing our part. It's time for them to do theirs, really,
because they don't really face the consequences of these cuts. If they're sick, they go to a private healthcare. They don't need lorry drivers. They can just get a private chauffeur to get everything that they need. If worst comes to worst, they don't need the bus. They don't need teachers in the public sector. They've got private tutors and stuff like that. So these people in power don't actually feel the effects of their policies. That's why they can easily just not give funding to NHS workers and spend on stupid stuff like track and trace, acting like that's actually going to make a difference. And they can give their own friends who have, companies contracts to benefit them ahead of other, couriers who might offer a better service to the public. All that nepetism it's
control. Like what I feel like a little bit what you're talking about, the track and trace thing. For me, that was a system for them to be able to control us better, really. Because if they know where we are at all times, that doesn't benefit us. It only benefits them because they know where people are. They know what they shouldn't be doing, Okay, so if we know where you are, okay, we'll just send the police to go get you. Like,
okay, regarding
it's
track and trace, do you think, like, obviously you just, talked about one of the fears people had of, the government knowing where I am and they might just be able to send the police anytime they want. Do you feel like they actually used it for those purposes? Because I didn't hear much stories of people.
You wouldn't. How would you hear about those stories? They would shush them. No, that's why, like, I feel like you almost have to get yourself in a position where, like, you kind of have to and you have to be prepared to hold the government accountable for their actions, and that comes from when you're voting as well. But also just educate yourselves in terms of the wider aspects of what their impact is actually having. So taking the time to actually look at government metrics, government stats, what's actually important for the future of the country. And you can't just listen to what they're telling you, because they're telling you a pack of lies.
Yeah.
You need to actually do research into the impact that they're having and what they're aiming to have for the future. Because a lot of these guys, like Labour, probably do the same thing. Like, we're harking on Tories, but are we positive that Labour would do any better?
No, I'm not guaranteed.
You're not guaranteed anything. So that's why, like, you kind of just we all need to be a bit more perceptive and have, like, try to take a wider scope lens in terms of the impact that they're having, what they're saying what they're aiming to have, and how does that impact you, really.
But obviously we see it with lots of political systems around the world. It feels like there's only two, maximum three choices. And they're all embedded with each other in some way, shape or form, because the system has been going on for so long. There's so many generations and, relations between people in office and the private sector and business. It's kind of hard to see that person or that party or that figure to be like, wow, they're really bringing a change and they want to do something, and it's not lip surface, because it feels like whenever there is a candidate that's like that, all the tentacles from all the interested parties, get the grips on them and start making them bend to their will by offering, we'll give you X amount for this next campaign, and so you can get re-elected. Just make sure this bill passes or this bill doesn't pass. Make sure you squash that protest and that type of stuff. It feels like if there's a shining light, that shining light can be, how do I say, compromised eventually. Like in my personal opinion, we saw that with Obama, because he was, the campaign of change. And then eventually it just felt like he was just the most status quo president you could possibly get. But going forward, do you feel like there's any resolution to this? Do you feel like, do you think that people are just going to constantly strike every so often just to get the point across, or do you think the government are actually going to do something? Because I don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, to be honest.
To be honest, I mean, yeah, I think we really need to see how this is going to play out. But I don't see the way how I see 2023 going. I don't see anything changing until they actually come into a room and actually agree. Nothing is going to get done. And I think at the way things are going now, I think in the case of, like, potential, I think education, I don't even think they're meeting with the relative unions.
No, they're not.
It's like nothing is going to happen, and you're going to continue to see these strikes. And one thing I didn't know about the strikes is that the people then that are actually striking, I think in relation to teachers, they're not even getting paid for that. And the fact they're willing to sacrifice not getting paid to make a point, that says something.
Yeah.
that really says something. So they can't just continue to ignore it, because we're always going to continue to rain a spotlight on it. I don't think any strike isn't going to be ignored. I don't think, no matter what they try to do, or no matter how they try to resolve it, it only gets fixed if they go into a room and actually come to an agreement.
Yeah,
that's the only way.
And this is why I didn't want to go into any public sector work, because
me either.
This is the type of bull crap you have to deal with. Like, it's peak.
Do you know before I went to uni, did accounting and finance, I actually wanted to be a physiotherapist.
Oh really? What in sport though? There's a difference. I feel like every basketballer wants to. If they're going to be a physiotherapist, it's going to be in sport or some sort of maybe not corporate world, but like sport is like the main aim. But what did you want to be? I know one of my friends is a physiotherapist now, and I've got a couple. Yeah. Shout out to Wara. She just won the BBL Cup with the London Lions. She's a physiotherapist with them, so shout out to her. Congratulations on the championship. But yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, I think back when I was looking to do it, the NHS funded you to study. So you had to go a placement there, and then I think after you graduated, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you'd have to work for the NHS for an amount of time. I don't know how much it was, but I would have been in a position that other people may have, or the people that are in now, especially people who work in the NHS, where you're struggling and you're having to strike. And I'm just so glad I didn't make that choice.
Do you think that's that was like a red herring? Like, you know, let's pay for their training so that once they actually graduate, they can, you know, get into this workplace, and then once they release a certain point, that's it. That's their cap. We're not going to give them any more help, any benefits. We gave you that little leg up at the start, and now we're going to keep you there where we want you to be there. We don't need you to get any higher or get any more pay. Do you feel like that's like
something like physiotherapy, like you mentioned? I think your friend is a physiotherapist for a BBL team.
Yeah.
Like the only way you're actually going to make some sort of like, I don't know, successful career is if you branch out and like work for a sports team or have like a private clinic or something like that. That's really you're able to become more self-sustaining. But obviously that in and of itself is a risk. Like running your own clinic is a risk, because ultimately you're liable for obviously everything that goes on in the clinic kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one for the public sector.
Said I wake up every morning, pray to God that I'm fixing up. Hope I'm never slipping up. Hear the money calling, need my peace to start getting up. Feeling like I'm blessed, but it came with a bit of luck. Feeling like you stressed, then the tension starts to fill you up. Need an intermission, yeah, they ain't the same lane as us. Cut from different sticks, yeah, they're not the same range as us. They cop the pleas and top of teas, they're not hitting range with us. Keep